Hello, this is Gary Hines from the Gary Hines Consulting Group, and I'm here today to talk about another part of the accomplishment stories segment that we had begun talking about recently. And this is part of the phase 3 transitioning to your job search part of the career strategy. And as I had mentioned before, there are about 15 things that you need to have in your toolkit as you do this career transition. So we already talked a couple of times about what an accomplishment story is and how you can use it. But today I wanted to go over some examples of some of those things that you could start thinking about to create your own accomplishment stories. Okay, so again, this could really cover a variety of industries and a variety of positions. So I'm just going to give you some samples. And again, just remember that there's usually 3 or 4 parts to this accomplishment stories. That is, identifying what was the problem or the situation. How did you address that problem or situation? What did you actually do for that situation or problem? And then what skills did you use, or what skills did you, utilize as you were taking care of this problem? So again, that's the accomplishment story phase, and I won't, spend a lot of time on that. But what I wanted to do was go through and say, here's some examples of some accomplishments that you could have had in one of your careers or your jobs in the past. Okay, so maybe you manage teams, departments, or projects. Did you ever do anything like that? What was that experience like? Is there anything that you could talk about in that role that could be considered a success or an accomplishment? Okay, maybe you saved money for your department or your company in some way, cut expenses, increased revenue, whatever you did, again, could be considered a positive for the company. Maybe you achieved greater results with limited or fewer resources. So say staffing was cut or resources were cut somewhere, but you were still able to achieve your objectives in that particular job. Maybe you received some special recognition or awards or letters of accommodation. And so these would be something actually that you could talk about and sort of brag about as an accomplishment. Maybe you implemented new systems, processes, or procedures in what you do, and you made something easier, better, quicker, more reliable. So that could be part of an accomplishment story. Maybe you opened up, opened new client accounts or expanded an existing one, something to that level. You increased your company's productivity or profitability in some way. You solved an unusually challenging business problem. We've all encountered some sort of problem at the job, and maybe we found some unique way to solve that problem. You were promoted or given more responsibility. That could be considered a new accomplishment or some type of challenge or success that you've had. I talked already about increasing sales revenue. Maybe you achieved something that had never been done before at your company. It was new, it was different, it was innovative, it was creative. Again, could be considered. You designed or developed something unique in your position. You wrote papers or reports or conducted some sort of presentation somewhere. Again, they don't have to be a long, drawn-out process or a long amount of time. It could have been a very short event, but something you could certainly talk about and brag about. Maybe you trained or mentored employees or new hires. You enhanced efficiency or speed in some way. You recognized challenges before they became real problems. You implemented safety standards. Maybe you brought in projects under budget and before deadline. That's always a key one. If you did something like that, that's something to certainly toot your horn about. Maybe you exceeded expectations of the boss or the leadership team. Or maybe you organized and carried out some sort of new initiative. So, those are just some short examples of things you could think about as you're starting to craft your accomplishment stories. And as I said, there's a grid that I provide folks with that they can actually track this and make it into viable and talkable points when they're either interviewing or networking events and things like that. So having these under your tool kit or in your toolkit would be very beneficial in your job search. Let's talk about that. I can help you develop these accomplishment stories, and we can pull things out that make sense. And we can actually tailor these accomplishment stories to the particular employer that you're trying to, work with. So anyway, Gary Hines at GaryHinesConsulting.com, 215-954-8309. Thank you.